the lead role, and then Mark Ruffalo is also fantastic as his partner. And then just the way this movie takes you on a psychological downfall of this man. And yeah, I don't want to give too much away because kind of any details about the plot is a spoiler in and of itself. But the way this movie balances flashbacks with present day scenes is fantastic. A lot of times that can get confusing for an audience and for a director, but let's be real, Martin Scorsese is not going to mess that up. Mm-hmm. It's Martin Scorsese and DiCaprio. They're one of the greatest director actor pairings of all time.
I would agree with that too. Yeah.
And so when you put them together, they're bound to make magic. So Shutter Island, definitely a movie and a book worth reading if you get the chance. But like I said, I do believe that the movie is better than the book. So if you haven't seen the movie, make sure you check it out. DiCaprio is fantastic in this. It's great, dramatic, gritty, psychological DiCaprio that we only see once in a while. And so, fantastic role from DiCaprio. Mike, what is your number 4?
Number 4, Steven Spielberg's 1981 masterpiece, Raiders of the Lost Ark, or later marketed as Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. But Raiders, one of the best action movies, if not, I think, the best action-adventure movie of all time.
Yeah.
So classic, so much fun, full of heart. Probably the best action scenes. I mean, the boulder. The gunfight, bringing a gun.
The boulder is an iconic scene.
Bringing the gun to the sword fight, the plane fight, the end when they're all lifting the Ark of the Covenant up. It's just they go so many places, do so much, see so much, and you're along for the ride, and it's just so much fun and such a great movie. And I'd also have to say that Harrison Ford, I think Indiana Jones is his best character. Maybe not his best performance. I do think Blade Runner, that's one of his best. But his most iconic character, I know, maybe it's a hot take because a lot of people would say Han Solo, but I personally think that Indiana Jones, it's his most iconic role. Definitely, I was more of an Indiana Jones fan when I was a kid than Star Wars. I didn't really get into Star Wars maybe until high school, honestly. But I was always such a big fan of Indiana Jones. I played the Lego games. I've just loved it, and I think Raiders definitely is, I could watch Raiders every day and just be happy.
Absolutely. My number 4 is a little movie that a lot of people didn't really see because it didn't get the award recognition it deserved, and that's Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler, it came out, I want to say in 2014, although it might have been 2015. But Nightcrawler, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, just to give you a brief synopsis, because a lot of people don't know this movie. It's about this character named Louis Bloom who's always looking for work, and his motto is, if you want to win the lottery, you have to make enough money to buy a ticket. And so he kind of goes on this, he needs to work, and then he discovers that there's these people called Nightcrawlers, and they're real people. They're people that go to crime scenes after they happen, whether it be a car wreck, a home invasion, and they take pictures and video, and then they sell those pictures and video to local news stations. So Nightcrawler is kind of the nickname for these people, but these people exist, and it's kind of insane because for someone who studies broadcast journalism like myself, you kind of see the dark side of the news where a lot of times, you're reporting on a story and you don't realize that, there are real people involved in this story. And so when I rewatched this after learning a lot about broadcast and journalism and the media world, a lot of these themes resonated with me about, these people that go out and they're taking pictures of people who might have just been sawed in half in a car wreck, but they don't care because they need to sell that picture and they need to sell that video to the news station just to make a buck so they can continue living their lives. And this is Jake Gyllenhaal at his best. This is my favorite Jake Gyllenhaal movie. He's amazing in Far From Home, and third act Jake Gyllenhaal in Far From Home is who he is in Nightcrawler. Yeah. But yeah, he is so fantastic. I love watching a movie set in the real world and a character breaks down mentally, and we see the devolution of his character from someone who's happy-go-lucky and ready to get a job, ready to work in this world, to someone who will do anything to be the best, undisputed. Also, Renee Russo, who you would recognize as Frigga, Thor's mother, in the Thor movies, as well as recently in Avengers Endgame. She is also in this as one of the news people. I believe she's the head of the news department at the local station. But she's fantastic in this. And yeah, if you haven't seen Nightcrawler, please go see that. I know a lot of these movies on my list you'll probably recognize. Not a lot of people recognize Nightcrawler. It should have been nominated for Best Picture, and it should have. Jake Gyllenhaal should have been nominated for Best Actor, and he should have won. That's how much I love this movie. That's how much I love Jake Gyllenhaal. Nightcrawler, my number 4.
My number 3, 1978's original Halloween. This is my favorite horror movie of all time. It's my favorite slasher villain of all time, and it's my favorite final girl of all time. It's just perfect. Another shoestring budget. John Carpenter, it's his best movie. It's between this and The Thing, and I'd have to go with Halloween. It's just such a perfect horror movie. It's simple. It's in one place. There's no traveling. There's no nothing. It's just like slasher kills people. Final girl beats him. But it's done with such like a strange elegance. It's like I read a review I really liked how Mike Myers and dang it, I should know her name. It's my favorite horror movie, and I don't know the main character's name. It's Laurie Strode. Michael Myers and Laurie Strode, they basically are dancing throughout this movie. They're in a dance, and as much as they like, it's just it was a cool way of thinking about it. How they're running away from each other, yet they're dancing with each other, getting through all this crap. But it's horror, like such a scary movie. Like you wouldn't think such an old movie. It's not gonna be scary. This is still terrifying. It's still perfect. This movie could come out today and still be just as powerful as it was back in the 70s. And this and Texas Chainsaw, these two movies, you have to thank them for the slasher genre. Without these, it would not be the same at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I gotta say, I love the diversity of your list because you got a lot. You got horror, you got classics, and then you have some modern stuff on there. So you gotta give a shout out for that. And also, you said it could come out today, and it literally did.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
It was released under this. I know
it was the sequel. Yeah,
it's not the same, but it was released under the same title.
I actually haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, me either.
I wanted though. Yeah.
People say because they're making more movies.
Yeah, I know they announced 2 more.
At Comic-Con.
I'm not like surprised. Halloween is literally there's 13 Halloween movies. Most of them are terrible. I think. Watch the first one, obviously. The second one's okay. The third one's hilarious. It has nothing to do with Mike Myers, but it's still worth the watch. And then watch the new one, because I heard it got good reviews, but the rest, I would skip. They're no good.
Absolutely. My number 3 is Avengers Endgame. Now, I thought about whether or not I should include this on my list at all, because upon rewatching it, I recognize that it's not a perfect movie, but my first experience watching it, and even my second experience, and my third experience, I saw this last Wednesday, I cried each time. And the first time I saw it, I cried the entire third act. The second time, it was most of the third act. And then the third time, it was that one ending scene, as those who have seen it will know. And I'll keep this brief because I did kind of exhaust my Avengers Endgame talk leading up to it, and we did give a full 45-minute review. But the one sentence that I always use in my first Twitter reaction, and just whenever anyone asks me about it, is it's the perfect culmination to the cinematic universe that raised me from boyhood. I saw the first Iron Man in theaters when I was 8 years old, and then to see Avengers Endgame with my closest friends when it was released in 2019, going from 8 years old, being in elementary school, not knowing what life was, to being 18 years old, being in college, knowing what I'm going to do for a career, becoming an adult. It was really special because it wasn't just 2008 and then 2019, there was a lot of movies in between then, and it slowly raised me, matured me, and just taught me so much. Mike, what is your number 2?
My number 2 movie, now this used to be my number 1 for the longest time, but then something surpassed that, and we'll get to it. Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Robert Zemeckis, 1988. This movie is it's so much fun, and I've loved this movie since I was a little kid. And it's funny because I never really would have recognized this as my second favorite movie for the longest time, but the more I think about it, the more I can go back to this movie when I'm feeling down and just have a good time with it. It's so much fun. Like, it's crazy seeing Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny in the same scene, same thing, Donald Duck and Daffy Duck. That's my favorite scene when they're playing the pianos. Such a fun movie. Roger Rabbit's such a crazy character, and Bob Hoskins also puts in a great performance as Eddie Valiant. But it's so cool how the technology in the 80s was nowhere near what we have today, when you can have like people interacting, like in Aladdin with Aladdin, the genie's like CG. They were interacting with 2D cartoons, and it looks more real than anything else they could do today.
Oh my god!
Just because of the way they did practical effects, they taught all the actors had to learn how to basically be a mime. Yeah. They had to learn how to interact with nothing, so the 2D handwritten, hand-drawn cartoons could be placed in front of them. It's such a cool story. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's a great mystery story also. So it's got a great mystery, a great, just like all your favorite classic cartoon characters are there, and great original characters, Jessica Rabbit and Roger Rabbit as well. Definitely recommend this movie to anyone ages, 0 to 100.
Absolutely. My number 2 is Step Brothers, my favorite comedy of all time, and a movie I literally quote every single day. This movie is timeless. I could rewatch it every single day and it would never get old. I'd find new jokes that I want to reference all the time. Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly at their finest. Will Ferrell is hilarious. Derek Huff is one of my favorite characters of all time. Adam Scott is fantastic. Just this cast is amazing. They're picture perfect. It's one of those movies where I always, kind of want a sequel, but I also don't want to take away the magic of the original. And I love how it does stand on its own. Will Ferrell's best movie, undisputed. You can argue with me about it, but I will never change my mind. He is amazing. John C. Reilly's best movie as well. Step Brothers is a movie I literally quote every day, so not putting it on this list, I would be remiss to not include it. And then I thought about whether or not it should barely crack the top 10, put it at like number 10 or 9, but the fact of how many times I quote it, how many times I've watched it, how many friends I've made just making jokes about Step Brothers in common. It's timeless, it's perfect, it's my favorite comedy of all time. Step Brothers is my number 2.
Now,
Mike, your number one movie of all time.
My number 1 we've talked about before, and I made you watch it.
Yeah.
You probably know what it is. It's
Yes.
1997's P.T. Anderson's Boogie Nights. I stumbled into this movie completely by chance, not knowing what it was, thinking it was something different on Amazon Prime, and I ended up watching the whole 3-hour movie, loving every single minute of it. It's crazy how much I love a movie with Mark Wahlberg, because most of the time I wouldn't think I truthfully didn't think he was a good actor, but this movie completely changed my mind, and knowing that my mind can be changed is such a great thing. Such a marvelous performance, one of my favorite performances in movies. He plays Dirk Diggler, Julianne Moore, Burt Reynolds, Don Cheadle, John C. Reilly, who is also in Step Brothers, William H. Macy, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Everyone plays such unique, crazy characters. It paints a beautiful picture of the 70s and 80s and just how two decades who are right next to each other can be completely different, and how lives can be changed completely by drugs and just the work they did, the porn work they did, and how their lives just surround it, and how basically none of these characters have a family, and how they can have this toxic family relationship but still somewhat be functional. And I think I'm just going to stop talking about it because we had a whole podcast dedicated to it. Most people know this is my favorite movie, and I really do think if you can watch this movie, totally watch it. Put the time into it. It's such a beautiful movie.
Absolutely. Heather Graham, fantastic in that movie.
Yes.
Also fantastic in The Hangover, also on my list, which was number 8. My number 1 movie of all time. I'm pretty sure I've referenced it before, but we've never covered it on the show, which we will definitely cover it at some point, and that is The Wolf of Wall Street. This is my favorite DiCaprio movie of all time. Gyllenhaal is fantastic. He's my number 2. DiCaprio's 1. Just to clarify, Gyllenhaal is not in this movie. I'm saying that Gyllenhaal is my second favorite actor of all time, with DiCaprio being my number 1. It's kind of the easy answer to say DiCaprio is my favorite actor, but he is phenomenal. This is everything that DiCaprio is in his career. He's funny. He's dramatic. He's tragic. He's fantastic as Jordan Belfort. I alluded to with Shutter Island. The combination of Scorsese and DiCaprio is fantastic, and them paired together for The Wolf of Wall Street is freaking amazing. I love this movie. It introduces Margot Robbie, which thank you for that. She is fantastic. There's so many people in this movie. Jon Favreau's in this briefly. Jonah Hill is fantastic. The story is amazing, and I love that it's a real story. I love the devolution of a guy, encompassed by fame and wealth, and how it strips away what he used to hold near and dear to his heart. The Wolf of Wall Street, my favorite movie of all time, a movie I quote regularly, and Jordan Belfort, one of my not favorite people of all time, but one of my favorite movie characters of all time. With that being said, we are only with about 40 seconds left on the podcast, so we did talk a lot about our favorite movies, but Mike, I'm really glad we got to do this again.
Yeah, I hope we get those other 2 out soon.
We'll definitely get those other 2 out soon. With that being said, you can find me on Twitter at Liam T. Crowley and on Instagram at Liam Crowley714.
And you can find me everywhere at Mike Gillis25.
And make sure you support the podcast at BlockBreakPod on Twitter. Download episodes on Spreaker.com/show/ Blockbuster Breakdown. And you can also download episodes by searching Blockbuster Breakdown on the Apple Podcasts app on your phone, or on iTunes by searching Blockbuster Breakdown or my name, Liam Crowley. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We will be back in full swing very soon. Make sure you guys check it out. Take care, everyone.
Bye.